We're back now with our special on the case of O.J. Simpson. And in today's Uncuffed, we have brought together a panel of people who were right in the middle of all the Simpson action from the day the story broke to the day the verdict was read. First, we have Shoreen Maghame, who was one of the 6 permanent reporters inside the courthouse during the trial. We have our very own Pat LaLama, who followed the trial from day one outside of the courthouse. We have former prosecutor Loni Coombs, who was working in the Los Angeles DA's office, only a few doors down from Marcia, in fact. And we have our very own Andrea Isom. Welcome, ladies. I'm eager to get your thoughts on how this slow-speed chase played out. Loni, you're in the, I suppose, the DA's office as this is unfolding. Give me a sense of, I guess, the mayhem, the turmoil, the energy inside that office.
Well, it was interesting because by that point, we knew that Robert Shapiro was the lead attorney, and we had worked with him for many years in the Santa Monica DA's office, so we all assumed, okay, Robert's handling the case. He's known to be a schmoozer, a very smooth, polished attorney. He would negotiate the best deal for his clients, and he'd plead them out. So we thought, okay, he's got the case. We don't think we'll ever get, 12 people to convict O.J. Simpson. It'll probably settle for 2 second-degree murder charges. That's essentially what we're thinking. And then suddenly, he shows up in the white Bronco on the freeway, and everyone starts covering it. Everyone's plastered to the TVs at that point.
Matt, I have to tell you, I was at the LAPD headquarters, and cameramen had set up the TV where we see the NBA Finals on half the screen, and the O.J. Simpson slow-speed chase on the other half.
I was in the courthouse, and I went to the courtroom to see where he would be arraigned. We knew he was being turned in. A bailiff said, I hear he's on the run. And I called my editor. I said, the bailiff tells me he's on the run. That's absurd. Go to the LAPD. They're about to have a press conference. He turned himself in, and that's where they announced. I actually found my notebook from that week where they announced Mr. Simpson is on the run.
The Los Angeles Police Department right now is actively searching for Mr. Simpson.
Imagine a Los Angeles press corps gasped.
It was almost as though everybody in LA, and in fact broader across America, was cognizant of the fact that, well, we're in a moment of history right now.
You couldn't write that, pursuit like a movie script. I mean, there he is. He's sitting in the car with the gun to his head. His friend is on the phone pleading for the police. He just wants to see his mother. They're heading back. There's helicopters. There's people watching over, on the freeways yelling, "Go OJ!" And now you're wondering, is he going to make it through alive?
Did any of you ever meet OJ?
Yeah, I interviewed him. I interviewed him, and I sat next to him not long before the murders. One thing I will say about O.J. Simpson, you will not meet a man who had more charisma.
It was interesting. I got to sit in the courtroom for some of the testimony, and I knew all the evidence, and I had very strong feelings, obviously, that he was guilty. And the courtroom was packed with people. Everybody's talking, everybody's, a lot of excitement, whatever. And then the doors open, and he walks out, and he's big, and he fills out this custom-cut suit, and he just walks in with all the confidence, and he looks around the room and just smiles, and the room goes silent. And I literally just went, and every person was just in awe.
And that wasn't lost on the jury either. The jury
the jury loved him.
Loni, can I come to you and ask you about, I guess, legal selection, which was so important in this case? You're inside the DA's office. What was everyone saying?
Well, you've got the prosecution and you've got the defense. For the prosecution, you have Marcia. Now, she was a very well-respected trial attorney, a lot of experience. The detectives loved working with her because they knew they could get her at any time, day or night, and she'd be there working on the case with them. She was also known to be able to match them swear word for swear word and drink for drink. She, had a great sense of humor.
An important skill in
Absolutely.
cases like this.
Absolutely. When you're working long hours together. And so when she got the case, it was no surprise. However, people didn't expect her to actually take it to trial once it became so big. It was kind of assumed in the DA's office that it would go to one of her superiors, but for some reason, she ended up staying on as the lead attorney. As far as the defense team, with Robert Shapiro, we knew what we were getting, most likely a plea negotiation. But once Johnny Cochran came on the case, everything changed. all bets were off. The whole narrative was going to change. The control of the case, you could see sort of the power jockeying for position there going on, and eventually it went to Johnny Cochran, and I think that changed the outcome of the case.
You had a very unique perspective as well. I mean, as one of the 6 permanent reporters who were allowed inside there.
I was right there in the front row, and I sat just a few feet from the attorneys. The Goldman sat next to me, and it was a very small, actually intimate courtroom. For the fact that hundreds of millions of people were watching, it was a very small place, and we all really got to know each other.
What was it like being near the Browns and the Goldmans?
It was very emotional. You felt their pain every moment. And it was sometimes difficult for me because in a way it was great. It was making my career and my life and being there, but yet for them, it was the most horrible thing ever. And to see those crime scene photos and those autopsy photos and what they suffered, and to be sitting next to them as they had to see it was just, I think about it now and I don't know how they survived it.
A lot of people say this turned into a race thing because when you put it in LA, it's going to become that no matter what.
He capitalized off of it.
No, I have to disagree with you. In Santa Monica, it was well known that the LAPD officers in Santa Monica that worked Brentwood loved O.J. Simpson.
That's true.
They would go over to his house during off hours. They'd hang out in the hot tubs. He had a lot of friends on LAPD. So
You were working in the DA's office there.
I knew all of these people.
And they called him Juice.
Yes, and so when we first heard that, they were going to try and smear the LAPD in this case, we all laughed and said,
not happen.
These officers. They
Really?
loved him. They handled him with kid gloves. They didn't want to believe that he did it. They still gave him special treatment when he was in jail.
Which was unreal to see that play out.
But then once it moved downtown, then it kind of went away from that, and now you're talking about the LAPD as a whole and what happened downtown. In Brentwood, he was just like our neighbor. He was another guy. He was one of our peers. Downtown, he was up on a pedestal. He was a hero. He was the guy who made it. And so they didn't see him as just an ordinary person.
Right.
I think the whole perspective
was a
on him
superhero.
changed.
I want to ask you, Shoreen, you're in there. There were so many big moments. The moment of the glove. What was that like inside?
It was such a shock. Honestly, I think it was. Chris Darden kind of decided last minute. The prosecutors and the police looked surprised. And we saw it, and it was like, uh-oh.
You know, a grade 1 DA knows you don't put on demonstrative evidence like that in front of a jury unless you know exactly what's going to happen and you've practiced it.
Well, the stage is set. You've heard about the storytelling. Next to come is the verdict. Everyone's holding their breath. I'd like you to stay around and we'll chat about the verdict after the break. The real reactions, the bombshell story you didn't get to see, plus our panellists' thoughts on the People versus O.J. Simpson series.